day. We're talking about a guy who's covered the Reds through thick and thin, and when you go back to the mid-'70s, there have been some great times and many thin times as well. We're recognizing the career of one Dennis Janson. It isn't ending, it's just taken a new direction. He's leaving the anchor desk this week to take on a more prominent role with WCPO.com. You'll hear from many sports notables over the next half hour. And we'd like your comments, 749-9999, or by email, soas@wcpo.com. Now, you've seen the Bengals since their inception. Paul Brown got it started. Forrest Gregg and Sam White took the Bengals to Super Bowls. And Marvin Lewis has given it great consistency.
I appreciate you. It's been great being here with you. I can't tell you how many times when things, I have to walk into that press conference room and things aren't, it's not going to be my best day in there. And I see you, and you're a real calming force and a calming face to see. And I appreciate that, and appreciate your friendship, and wish you just the best of luck as you go into your life after work.
Although there's going to be work after work.
Thank you very much, Marvin. To think that anyone sees me as a calming influence, John.
Well, I've always thought of you that way.
Well, John, you know, you talk about my durability here. You're going on 33 years here yourself. Yep. I mean, come on. My dad passed away when I was 21. I've known you longer than I've known my father.
No, that's,
you know, and I tell you what, I think, you know, we talk about athletes who they with a glance or a look or just a gesture, they know what their teammate's going to do. I can't tell you how many times when John and I have been in a situation when we're on the air and we just look at each other and we know what to pick up and where this is going to go, and there's just been a chemistry between us, which I certainly appreciate, and doesn't happen.
Well, we're sitting now about 4 feet apart or so. That's about how we've sat apart in most of our careers. I mean, that's just about that close. Just think if we didn't get along. Here's one. Here's one, and I'll do an impression and see if you get it. Denny, you're one of the best. Thanks for all that you've done for high school football over the years, and good luck, and God bless you in your new endeavors.
Jerry Faust's name came up yesterday, as a matter of fact. Isn't that nice of Jerry Faust to take time out of his day? I remember I was at Jerry Faust's home talking with Dick Schaap from ABC at the time, and he was wanted to talk to Jerry when he was about to be named to succeed Dan Devine at Notre Dame. And I was sort of babysitting Jerry there at the house until the game was over. I think the Notre Dame was playing in a bowl game. And at the conclusion of that, Dan Devine was going to be leaving, and Jerry Faust was going to be introduced. And, of course, that goes back when I was up on the hill at
Channel 1-2.
Channel 1-2, exactly.
You got it. Dan in Montfort Heights. Dan, you're on Meyer Sports of all sorts. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on, Papa. Thanks for having me. Denny, I just want to say thanks for the years. And a couple of things here, and Papa, don't cut me off too short. Denny, you introduced my dad at the La Rosa's Hall of Fame, and you couldn't have been more humble than anybody I've ever met.
I have a lot to be humble about. Now, let's just pump the brakes a couple times.
But I mean, you actually said, Don Ruberg knows who I am?
Yeah.
Don Ruberg? And all of a sudden, I'm somebody. And, you know, that was just...
Your pop was a great guy.
Well, just to take that kind of stand in what you guys have in your arena and everything else was very nice. And then one of the things that I think you follow that you said about my dad that day is you actually said, I'd never saw Don Ruberg big shot anybody. Well, I'd never seen Denny Janson ever big shot anybody.
Well said, Dan.
You were always plain, West Side, let's get a brat and a burger, Price Hill chili, and Daddy, we wish you well. I think you'll be very successful because of your roots and what you'll take with you.
Good deal. Thank you, Dan. Sure appreciate the call.
I appreciate that.
You know, you got to know a lot of Bengal players over the years, and Mike Brown says his dad felt you always gave the team a square deal. Dave Lapham feels the same way. He says you kept things in the locker room that belonged in the locker room, but now Lapp has another idea.
I'll tell you what, everybody in that locker room loved you, and the big thing is, DJ, everybody trusted you. You know, they knew they could tell you anything, and you'd have the discretion, to use what you're supposed to use and what you're not supposed to use. And you should write a book on all the stuff you're not supposed to use that you've stored over the years. You could probably write a bestseller here in the Cincinnati, Ohio, man. No question about it.
You know something? And he could be a pretty good author because there's very few people that know as many stories as Dave Lapham.
I'm going to read a few more books first before I start to write any, John. I'm going to start with a pamphlet.
Let's start with the pamphlet. What was your most memorable story to report, and who was the best high school athlete you've seen through the years? This is from Jeremy in Fort Mitchell.
We were there the same day. One of the most extraordinary things ever happened to me, and I was interviewing Muhammad Ali.
Oh, yeah.
It was at the Stag Barber Shop over on Woodburn Avenue. Yep. I was at 1-2. You were here. And we got a call that Muhammad Ali was getting a haircut over there on Woodburn Avenue. And so Nick Clooney says, Jim Keene's meeting you at the side door. Go. And I went like, Nick, what would Muhammad Ali... Go! Go find out. So I go up there, and I pull up, and sure enough, there's people 10 deep on the sidewalk. And you're coming out. And I said, Papa, and he goes, yep, Muhammad Ali's in there. And what a panic that was. Unbelievable.
Somebody shot a couple of, because we didn't save the videotape,
Yep.
but somebody shot a couple of pictures of me doing the interview, and they gave them to me a couple of years ago. And I treasure those.
They sent me one, but the thing of it was, that morning I'd interviewed Joe Frazier and his singing group, The Knockouts. So I get up to Muhammad Ali, and I freeze. What am I going to say to the greatest? And I said, I ran into an old friend of yours this morning. And he said, who's that? And I said, Joe Frazier. And he jumped up out of the barber chair and said, Joe, this town ain't big enough for me and Joe Frazier. And I thought he was going to swat me with one of those huge hands. And it was just a big joke, and it laughed it off. It was wonderful.
Yeah, you got to work with a lot of good people, not just here, but there was Nick Clooney and Ira Joe Fisher at 12. Many years ago, you made friends with the always colorful Pat Berry.
Here's the best. I don't think he has this anymore. But I can remember when you guys were downtown, you'd get a new 11 o'clock producer. And they'd come over and start talking about Denny's time. So Denny would pull out the part of his contract where it was guaranteed exactly how much time he got and that he couldn't be cut. And he had that part highlighted. And so the new producers, after a couple of nights trying to screw with him, he would just bring it over and say, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know this is my contract.
Yeah, this contract went away a long time ago, Pat.
Oh, man. Giddy up, Coach Rash. This is probably a Beechwood. Noel Rash.
Noel Rash, absolutely. Good guy.
You're one of the best. First class and just plain get it. Thanks for all you've done for high school sports and in the greater Cincinnati area. And Doug Cochran of Cold Springs writes, as a sports photojournalist for over 20 years in Cincinnati, my fondest memory of Denny was his white VW Beetle convertible.
Yep.
If a car fits the personality of its owner, how does a bug fit Denny?
It's my Price Hill Porsche. That's the best I can do. That's it.
And it still runs, it still looks good,
Absolutely.
doesn't it?
Yes, indeed it does.
Still more with Dennis Janson, just a few minutes, 749-9999, SOAS at WCPO.com. Right now it's time to deliver some great pizza.